Hopefully all sounds well. It's been a minute since I've recorded, but we got videos stockpiled, so let's get into it. I awoke with a start, sitting straight up in bed. A strangled cry on my lips. Girl, I don't know what my bad. I don't know what was happening, but okay. My breaths were coming in rapid succession, and there was a cold sweat on my skin. For a moment, I stared at the foot of my bed in confusion. I was just dreaming. I've been dreaming. A hand went to my face, rubbing at the corner of my eyes as the dregs of sleep drained away and my shaky breathing returned to normal. I flopped over with a groan, burying my face back into my pillow. The dream was already faded from memory. It had been about so I get for not reading for a while. It has been about relics. I was pretty sure I had been in Pythia. Probably a stress dream, all things considered. I couldn't remember the details, which might be the best given how I've awakened from it. A notification chime sounded in my head and I groaned again, pulling up the message. Caleb, what do you want? My alarm went off right as he spoke. I shut it off, glaring at my ceiling. Time to wake up. I have an alarm for a reason, you know. You mean you aren't overjoyed to hear my voice first thing this morning? I'm not overjoyed to hear anything first thing in the morning. And here I was, sure you were an energetic morning person. You were wrong, and I'm up. I'll meet you outside your flat soon. We have an early start and a busy day. I know. He disconnected and I groaned again before yanking off the blankets and tumbling out of bed. I went to take a shower so I could wake up and get this day over with as soon as possible. I already knew our morning briefings would be lengthy and intense, more so than what I'd experienced so far. My first assignment barely even had a briefing. The second was a little more involved. This time we had a lot to go over, including detailed plans of how they hoped things would go down at the auction. It was only a hope, though. There were a lot of unknowns involved in this mission. Ooh, girl, I can't talk. Let's get together. There were a lot of unknowns involved in this mission, since we were running a pitifully little information. We also had to address several contingency plans in case things went badly for us. Caleb and I, Magnus explained, would enter the auction with fake identification. Magnus had uncovered a little more information about the venue and had acquired invitations. We had more insight of what to expect thanks to him, but not much. From our vantage points, we would monitor what relics were being auctioned off and who they were meant to. Magnus didn't want us to draw attention to ourselves, so we wouldn't be bidding on them, just watching. He said that we'd be following up on those later. The one we were really after was a so-called replicating relic they were supposedly unveiling. It was if it was legitimate, our goal was to obtain it at all costs. If everything were to fail, acquiring that relic was one of the things we had to accomplish, even if it meant blowing cover and fighting our way out of it. Out with it, I think. I don't know. Take 3. Out with it. Meanwhile, Ari and Van would infiltrate the auction and see if possible. They were to find out more information about the host, who we weren't sure would attend, and who was backing them up. Shutting this thing down for good meant figuring out who was behind it. The King's Guard would station themselves outside to keep a watch on the area and be available if we needed backup. 2 other units would also be on standby within teleport range of their knights. Much of this information that we'd already gone over here and there in the preceding days, the meetings were summarizing what we already knew. Caleb spent a lot of time coaching me on what I should do and how I should behave while we were there. My presence was largely to help control the situation if we had to deal with any active relics, so I was to sit close to him and avoid interacting with others unless I had to. Weapons we knew weren't allowed at the venue, but Magnus said many guests were likely to have Esper bodyguards. Even if they had PSI detectors, we shouldn't stand out from that regard. Even so, I was to mimic the first normal person I spotted and keep my PSI in that form until we were inside and safe. They felt as if it was unlikely for there to be a PSI dampeners, given that many attendees probably wouldn't show it off. Their bodyguards were hobbled. Barry and Van had equipment to disrupt the dampeners just in case. I want you to stay alert. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Shield yourself or take cover at the first sign of trouble. Don't worry, I will. We had just finished getting dressed in our totally not undercover in-game agent's attire, and Caleb was giving me a final pep talk. He set his hands on my shoulders and leaned forward, resting his head against mine before pulling me against him. I wish we weren't taking you right now into the heart of this. At the very least, I wish we could leave you outside, hidden somewhere. But there's no guarantee you can get to where you're needed in time if we need that ability of yours, so we have to keep you close to where the relics are. I'll be okay. I know I'll stay close by the entire time. I don't intend to leave your side. Just take your lead from with me. If things go badly, I don't care about the mission objective. I'm getting you out of there, and I don't want to hear complaints. You won't, as long as you're safe too. If you get yourself hurt trying to protect me, I'll complain a lot though. Then I guess I can't get hurt either. That is exactly what I wanted to hear. Let's go. Ari and the others are waiting. They don't give no kiss or nothing. Would have been convenient if Ari could teleport everyone to the appropriate location. Turns out Ari's teleportation had limits. I'd learned that during our last trip to Pythia. Generally, he could take up to 2 passengers with them over very long distances. Any more than that stressed his PSI. He could take small groups in rapid succession though, because it was less tiring that way. That hadn't initially made sense to me, but he explained it like lifting a heavy load. If you're trying to carry a crate of heavy objects, you might hurt yourself lifting it all at once. But if you took the items out and carried them one by one, you could get the job done without harming yourself. 4 teams was a lot though, even for him. Endgame had a system of quick travel and alternated between teleporting short distances and using high-speed transports between connection points. It allowed a trip that would take a day to be done in just a few hours. It was useful given that even the fastest ground travel was slow, and air travel that distance wasn't possible because of the unstable atmospheric conditions of the planet. I was practically vibrating with nervousness by the time we reached Pythia, and even more so when Caleb and I stepped out the car at the venue. Everything was happening so fast and so slow at the same time. The auction was a semi-formal event, which would have been uncomfortable even if I wasn't there on an assignment. As it was hard, I was having a hard time calming the shaking as Caleb helped me out the car. Just stay close to me. Remember, we're just going to bid normally. We're not storming the place. Sure, that makes it much less terrifying. He smirked as we joined a line of people waiting to get inside. Glad I could get you some comfort. When he said it that way, just bidding like normal guests, it sounded less difficult. With in-game's endless funds, the price wasn't a concern. If somehow we lost, that was when the things would become problematic, but hopefully it wouldn't come to that. The goal was to get through without suspicion or violence. The venue for the auction was a restaurant, not some kind of shady auction house. I guess when dealing in illicit items, it was smart to handle business in a non-suspicious place. They checked for weapons at the door and allowed us inside with no issue, so that at least was one hurdle crossed. We would be out of contact with Ari and Vanessa just in case they were monitoring transmissions. Even if we had a secure channel, we didn't want to risk our communications being detected, so we weren't going to contact them unless an emergency arose. I didn't like being isolated from the rest of the team like this, but it couldn't be helped. Come on, we don't have to mingle, so let's just find a quiet place to watch. He took 2 glasses of champagne from a server, but cautioned me not to drink as he handed me one. Not that I wanted to anyway. There was no way I wanted to be in any way impaired during all of this. And then he steered me off to the side where he could monitor the rest of the room. We just need to look like we're having a private conversation. Don't be too obvious about watching anyone. Just keep your ears open. I'm looking forward to the day all this comes naturally and I stop feeling like I've transmigrated into a crime novel. That'll come with the time and then the experience. It was weird watching the other attendees. They had said some people were leaders of Delphine's underworld and some of the top people in the crime circles. Some of the most wanted and dangerous people on the planet. But they all look normal. I didn't know what I expected mafia leaders to look like. Criminals didn't have a specific look to them. I knew they were good people, but it still felt strange. People were chatting, smiling, laughing. It created an odd disconnect between who I knew they were and how they appeared. It's weird to see some of these people at the same location. I pretended to take a sip of my glass as I looked at him. A lot of them are rivals, enemies, people who might try to kill each other in a different situation. You never see them all in one place like this. I see a few familiar faces too. It's odd to me that there are even politicians here, people that I've seen in interviews and the like. Well, they're some of the most corrupt people on this side of the planet. It doesn't shock me one bit. What'll shock you is to know that there's a senator from Triad across the room. I didn't realize this thing reached that far. I'm not shocked. The Triad has its fair share of shady government programs too. He let out a soft swear as he continued to scan the room, and again I had to fight not to look over my shoulder. Come on, unfortunately I see something we have to deal with right now. There's someone even more troublesome here, and we can't ignore it. There was an urgency to his tone and the edge that hadn't been there until the moment. He took my hand and tucked it close to the side as he started away from our little spot across the room. I hurried after him, trying not to look worried. What's going on? Caleb set his glass on the tray of a passing waiter and I followed suit, still unsure what was happening. I scanned the crowd ahead of us, trying to determine where we were heading. That's when I saw a familiar face. Jack? Oh great. Caleb. Jack would recognize us for sure. We knew that he might be here, but we were hoping against not to interact with them. At the very least, we were definitely hoping Jack wouldn't be present. Caleb quickened his pace enough to catch up, but Jack turned just at the moment Caleb reached for his arm. His eyes went wide before an easy smile settled on his face. His gaze flicked to me and then back to Caleb. Oh, look at this. Didn't expect to see you here. Had a feeling you and your boss might show. The pleasant tone they took with each other shocked me. Good to see you again, Kale. And Nori, it's been a while. Yeah? This is the most awkward situation I've been in my entire life. Didn't know they sent invitations to this event to your neck of the woods. Wouldn't you know, a mutual friend was able to procure an invitation for us, and we had just stopped by. If it's one thing I never wouldn't call him a friend. They were exchanging a pleasant conversation, but my heart felt like it was about to leap out of my chest. I kept expecting one of them to throw a punch. I could practically feel the energy crackling off the two of them. Jack, there you are. Chase? His light blue eyes glanced my way, then back at Jack questioningly. He and Jack know each other? So when we met that day in New Albion... Kaisa, I was looking for you. Kaisa, not Chase. Wait, Kaisa? Kaisa Fianchetto? No, I was almost certain he had to be. That was why he had felt familiar when I first met him. If he knew Jack, that meant it's a pleasure to see you. I didn't think we would meet again. Me neither. The world is smaller than it seems, I guess. It is. Well, this is an awkward situation, isn't it? Wonder what we're going to do about it. Didn't expect to run into Mr. Fianchetto himself, much less in a particular bodyguard. Though I guess we knew Crimson would show his face. This is gonna get ugly, isn't it? And everything I do is for the benefit of Crimson, Caleb. Was it? I'm not here in that capacity. Really. I have many reasons for wanting to see this current situation end. He closed the distance between us a little, his expression still serious. Frankly, I don't wish to see these items in my father's hands any more than you do. It'd be wise for us to not draw attention to create a commotion. I believe our goal is similar. How surprising, the rumors that little Fianchetto is going up against his father are true. Caleb. Leave it, Jack. I have no intention of being provoked by this kind of remark. The rumors are true. Now you know. Do be sure to include it in your mission report. I'm sure your boss would find it useful, if he wasn't already well aware of it. I was very much like the odd one out of all this, and I wasn't sure what would happen next. Magnus had said it was likely groups like Crimson wanted to keep the relics off the street. That tracked with what Kaisa said. And could we believe it? You know, this works out now that I think about it. What does? You, me, here? I don't think I even want to know what the hell you're talking about. Nora, wait, hold on a minute, hear me out. Get your hand off me. Kaisa and I both saw it at the exact same moment. Jack let out an amused snort, holding up his hands. Kale, I saw something earlier that needs checking out. That's why I was looking for Kaisa. I don't want to leave him alone for long, but I need to take a closer look. You should come with me. What did you see? You want me to just blurt it out here? If you're not willing to do that much, then I guess you're on your own. Could be relevant to keeping your comrades safe, I'm sure. There are at least 2 others lurking around. Forget it. I'm not dragging Nor. Leave her with Kaisa. They can look out for each. No. And here I was hoping you'd be forward to working with me again. Guess I'll handle it alone. But don't expect me to go out of my way to watch out for those 2. He started away but glanced back at us. Just keep in mind that we might know a lot more about this place and people behind it than you do. Neither of us said anything as we watched Jack go, but I could tell something was bothering him. He chewed the inside of his jaw, a scowl on his face. I was just about to suggest he go when he turned to me and spoke first, muttering a curse under his breath. Nori, stay here. I need to go see what the hell this idiot's going on about. I understand. I mean, Jack wasn't wrong. They knew more about the situation than we did, and if there was something suspicious going on, we couldn't risk something happening to Ari and Van just because we failed to check it out. It didn't seem like a spontaneous trick of some kind. I wasn't keen on Caleb leaving my side, but when unpredictable things happen, I suppose improvisation, girl, or no, go with it, was necessary. And if this one tries anything while I'm gone, punch him. His type is notoriously lacking in defenses. He means a king rank, I guess. One punch and he'll fold like wet paper. Good to know. I shot Kaisa an awkward look, but his expression was impassive as usual. And you, anything happens to her, you're a dead man. I'll endeavor to remember it. Do better than endeavor. And with that, he left hurrying through the crowd after Jack. Hopefully he comes back soon. Don't look too worried. Jack isn't the only person of mine here. He's just the one that sticks closest to me. If something happens, I'll ensure your safety. I'm not worried about my safety. Is that so? Are you able to take care of yourself as you'd have me believe? Is this an amount of time? If I wasn't, do you think I'd be here? I'm not sure. I'll admit I'm surprised they sent you out this soon. Sometimes it's like that. I suppose so. It's disappointing you ended up here instead. Wait, what? I don't know what that said. Maybe for you. Perhaps you as well. Please tell me that this isn't where you tried to convince me to join your side. I can't give you back your normal life, but I can give you something closer to it than they can offer. I hope you realize that. How do you think you could help me pursue something like that? I have quite a lot of connections here that might be benefit to you. As long as I'm a benefit to you, it would be of benefit to you here, yes, but it isn't as if I expect that you'll join the family. This isn't my intent. Regardless of anything, something like finishing school wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility if you were here. To what end? Acquiring a degree, starting a career that utilizes it? That's a pipe dream at this point. It is still a dream. Dreams change. Are you saying yours have? This quickly? I couldn't deny that there are certain allure to what he was saying, not the defecting from in-game part, just the idea of going back to some kind of normalcy. But there were other considerations now. Caleb, for one, other relationships I've already forged. The simple reality that it wouldn't be as easy as Kaisa made it sound. He wouldn't sway me with that kind of argument, but there was a brief stirring of temptation in his words. A month ago, I'd probably accepted it without thought. Now, things were different. You know, I can accept this kind of offer. I suppose I do, though it's unfortunate. Maybe it is. Come, it appears they're about to get started. We must take our seats and hope Jack and Caleb can find us. It surprised me that he had let it go that easily, but he's correct. That looked like there's something, that they were setting up something to get started. Anyway, I could see what Magnus meant by them having a weird relationship with this guy. Sticking close to Kaisa as he led me to the table towards the back, I couldn't help but look around. I wonder where Caleb and Jack were. I hope everything's alright. It shouldn't be too difficult for them to find us, and I hope that they didn't draw attention to us when they did. As the auction started, waiters passed out the devices through which we could send bids through. And the gentleman was disarming. And the gentleman was disarming. A smile took the stage. He introduced himself as Brennan Roy and said he would be the evening's auction caller. He wasn't an Esper. His PSI was very faint and green tinged, just like all the other non-Espers in the room. I checked just to be sure. After his introduction, they brought out the first selection of relics. They were starting with the smaller ones, mostly weapon-based on the description. Excuse me. I just ate, so whatever. There were short demonstrations given before bidding, starting for each one. I kept my eyes to the callers' faces or the device in my hand. I didn't want to cause an unexpected issue with the relic, and since my control of disrupting them was still dodgy at best, I couldn't risk it by looking too hard at any of them. That always seemed to be the catalyst in the past. I was waiting for the big relic, but I suspected it would show up in the middle or towards the end of the auction. Kaisa, however, got into a short bidding war over one of the particular relics and looked relieved when he ultimately won. As I moved on to the next item, he leaned over to me and knowingly smiled. I wasn't going to bid on these smaller ones, but I suppose if you're here, there's no need to hold back. What do you mean by that? I said it before, we want these things off the street, but the big draw is the one that they say can replicate other relics. I assume that one is the one you came for. It's what everyone here is for. But I don't doubt you'll win that one with little effort, so I don't have to worry about it. What are you going to do with the ones you buy? If not use them? Throw them in the Ouroboros Sea and pray no one finds them again. As you can imagine, I find them disconcerting. The fact they're so alien to me, even with my abilities, I don't like it at all. I assume it's the same for your boss, given none of you make use of them, and I'm sure you would if you could. I don't know about that. For even king ranks, being unable to understand these things makes me wary. It makes me wary too. Our Espers can't interface with them, but somehow the people behind this can. It's odd. Well, I've been wondering about the same thing for a while now too. The only ones that came close to being able to interact with the relic was me. Magnus said it was because I was mimicking king ranks, but neither of the king ranks we knew of it could do it. If there was a replicating relic, then how did they figure out how to use it? Setting aside whether these relics were replicated or found, how did they figure out how to operate so many of them safely? Do you know who's behind this auction? We believe the group behind this is called the Host. We know little about them. They aren't new, but something changed within the last year. We know they have been gathering Espers. We aren't sure what their motivations are. espers. There was a suspicion growing in my mind. It was something we hadn't been able to rule out, but something we also had no proof at doing at this point. But it was the only option that made sense. Have you heard of the Fisher King? I'm surprised you have. We don't know much, just a few things we picked up here and there. We know little about him too. We heard the name come up a few times regarding the host. Is it an Esper, maybe F class? An F class king rank? It could explain a lot. If it isn't that, we haven't considered the possibility, but I'm also F class, so I suppose we just assumed. You shouldn't. F class, even within the same rank, can differ significantly. Then you believe? A round of applause drowned out his voice, interrupting our conversation. I'd gotten so engrossed in talking with him, I lost track of the auction itself. I realized 2 people were rolling out a cart with a cloth-covered item. Now for what you've all been waiting for, a very special item from today's catalog. I straightened, glancing around for Caleb because I expected him to be back by now. He had given me the authority and information I needed to bid, but I hadn't expected to be dealing with it alone. However, if that's what I thought it was, I couldn't wait on his return. The auctioneer pulled the cloth of the item and before anyone could react, the man slammed his hand down on the device and an almost invisible blue pulse flooded the room. EMP emitter? But why? Several people jumped to their feet, but there was something else that had attracted my attention. A familiar figure that materialized out of nowhere next to the auctioneer. Oh no. What is she doing here? Whew. When was the last time we seen her? It's been a minute. But anyways, y'all, thanks for listening, and we will get back later.